What's up, guys? This is Hitchagood, your favorite all-American freedom-loving gamer, and today we're revisiting what I consider to be the greatest Battlefield game of all time. Now, it's taken me quite some time to come up with that answer to finally decide what Battlefield I like best, but I tell you, with 2042 ramping up their content and the emerging that was Battlefield 5, I mean, some highly recognizable contenders in this genre. No, man, I'm just kidding. Those were total trash. The obvious contender here is Battlefield 1, but I gotta tell you, I think Battlefield 4 just barely edges it out in my book over 1, but we're not really here to do a comparison. We're here to revisit the year of 2013. That's right, guys. This game turns 10 years old this year. 10 years. A decade ago, the industry was pumping out pure classics in both the Battlefield and the Call of Duty series that make today's titles look like they were made by a bunch of squabbling, unsupervised toddlers with a bunch of drywall and a box full of crayons. White one. Anyways, I want to look back and just appreciate what Battlefield 4 turned into, why it holds up extremely well a decade later, and why you're missing out if you're not playing in the modern day. This is Battlefield 4. Now, before we dive in deep, I do have to take a moment and appreciate how well this game has aged. It turns 10 years old this year. Now, at the risk and somewhat intentional act of making you feel like an old school gamer, I want to pose the question. What else was going on back then? Well, for one, The Office had wrapped up filming on its final episode. The word twerk and selfie were officially added to the dictionary. We said goodbye to the legendary actor Paul Walker. Royals, Wake Me Up, and Radioactive were all at the top of the music charts. 2013 was a year of epic sequels. The Hunger Games, The Hobbit, and who can forget, of course, Anchorman 2 were all hits at the box office. And following the befitting theme of 2013, Battlefield 4 was also an epic sequel to the well-received Battlefield 3 game of 2011. It was an astounding time to be alive as plots thickened and we dove deeper into our favorite forms of entertainment, including Battlefield. Well, you know, after maybe 6 months after launch, but you get what I'm saying. But hey, enough with all that nostalgia crap. Let's get to my 2023 review for Battlefield 4.
Yeah, get ready, bitch! That's what I'm talking about!
Damn, boy, how many is that, Hit?
35, my guy. 35.
Woo!
Hell yeah,
Get them crying homemade mamas.
Good job, Hitch.
Out of the tanks!
All right, who's next?
Out of the tanks! Out of the tanks!
Don't hear that?
Now! Out of the tanks!
Hell no, I ain't getting out of this tank. I got a damn 35 kill streak. You kidding me?
Get your ass out right now, soldier!
I'm gonna tell you right now, Sergeant, I ain't getting out of this thing. You can kiss me off.
I told you to get out of the tank. Now, to start off with, I gotta say that one thing that really bolsters a game to me and kind of stands out about this game is my experience with it. And it's the community that surrounds it, and the expansive sandbox-style gameplay, the variety of gameplay, and the mechanics of this platform that I believe specifically fostered that community. Part of the enjoyment of a game is, after you log off, for me anyways, especially when I was younger, was to watch other people play the game, discover content creators and their creative spin on it, and maybe it was their professional knowledge, or just finding new creators and what they have to offer significantly improves my enjoyment. And dang, did Battlefield 4 allow for that. This is where I discovered Battlefield Friends and Neebs Gaming, Ponyline, Jack Frags, Level Cap, all the legends, and let us all take part in this shared experience where we could identify with each other about how overpowered weapons were in the game, the atrocious placement of useless turrets, dealing with crazy admins, the experience of team play, or lack thereof, and then going and researching how to get better with Jack Frags, or just sit in awe of the crazy feats that Ponyline was able to achieve. It was amazing, and it offered an unrivaled sense of community that I really don't know if I felt since. But it wasn't just the content creators that fostered this. Battlefield 4 developers offered a strategy to game building that has almost never been repeated ever again. And that's just listening to the community. And even being a part of that community, Battlefield developers actively put things in the games that Battlefield friends commented on. For instance, you can now unlock a bipod for your freaking knife, just like Colonel 100. You can trigger a Megalodon to come crashing out of the ocean, the same one that Neebs tried to warn us about.
Simon! Get out of the water! There's Megalodon!
Even in the campaign, if you stand around long enough, you can listen to the Battlefield friends having a drawn-out and humorous conversation with each other on a couple different instances, I'm pretty sure. And even in the community test environment, C4 was actually labeled as Jeep stuff and possibly stolen Jeep stuff. It was apparent that the creators of the game had a sense of humor, that they were real people and not some corporate intern regurgitating talking points behind a Twitter account. It was a lot more real. They were just like us. They spent time also implementing a test server to try things out before it went live, and they put in tons and tons of Easter eggs all across a bunch of these maps. They took the time to do that. They even spent hundreds of hours implementing the community map project with Operation Outbreak, and the whole map was built on the feedback of players, that's pretty lit. And of course, not every change was hailed as a success.
They ruined it.
No, they didn't ruin it. They patched it so you couldn't do that shit.
Yeah, that was a little...
About every patch is ruined in my book, I tell you that.
But the fact that they put so much effort in this is a huge contrast to today's developers just doing what they want with little regard to their audience. So, big points for DICE, EA, and Battlefield 4 in general on this. That was absolutely awesome. Now look, I know it was crap when it came out. Every single review video that you're going to watch is going to talk about this, so we're not going to dive into it here. Neither are we going to dive into how mediocre the campaign was, because honestly, very few people played it just because it wasn't that great. I played all the way through it, and meh. About the only thing you ever got out of it was the bonus guns you got at the end of the game, but that's a different topic. But we're really here to do a modern day review, which is the state of the game right now. But once Battlefield 4 got rolling, I'm telling you, it was content mania. There was always some new DLC coming out that was well worth the money. It launched with 10 maps and 7 game modes across every single one of those maps. Over the life of the game, a massive 9 DLC packs released for this game, with 5 of them each including 4 maps apiece, bringing the total number to 30 maps and a total number of 12 game modes. The following DLCs introduced another 3 maps, including the night mode of Zavad 311, which was freaking awesome. As of today, this game has a whopping 107 guns, and that's not even counting the launchers. Battlefield 2042 can't even come close to holding a candle to these numbers. Battlefield 4 launched with 83 weapons, while 2042 was struggling with just a paltry 22.
You suck, you jackass.
Nowadays in Battlefield 4, the weapons are wonderfully balanced, I think, of course, except for shotgun frags, but we're not going to talk about that. Not that I'm bitter. The sheer amount of content in this game is absolutely staggering. I've played for about 350 hours on PC and around 100 on console, and I'm still not even close to unlocking everything. There's always something to unlock, there's always something to max out to achieve, and speaking about achieving things, I love this achievement system. It's never ending. For instance, in order to get the Deagle, which is an awesome 50 caliber hand cannon, you got to get the Unica first, which is a pretty neat revolver to play with. But in order to get the Unica, you got to get a bunch of kills from the water, which was a funny story with me. Yes, that can be an annoying task to have to sit there in the water and shoot people, but I finally got to the last kill, maybe last kill or 2 to unlock it, and I just couldn't get it. So I got frustrated with it. I gave it a break for a while and forgot about it. 2 weeks later, I find myself swimming across the reservoir in Dragon's Pass, and some mines that I placed near the enemy's base at the beginning of the round just happened to end the life of some poor unsuspecting soul, and the achievement flashed across my screen. Boom, Unica is unlocked. And it's a badass gun. It's very fun to use. But then, you got to get 20 headshots with this gun to unlock the Deagle, which is a pretty fun challenge in itself, and it does have the potential to make you a better player. And then, once you get that, it feels like this huge, badass hand cannon in your hands, but when you start to level it up, that's when it really gives you the rewards. When you unlock the laser, you put the proper sights on it and everything, it turns into a monster. So I'm telling you that to tell you this. My main point is that, yes, it takes a while to get some stuff in here, but you are rewarded at every turn for your grind. And that's not the only instance of this in Battlefield 4. It's game-wide, and that's why it's still fun 10 years later. And part of what makes this game fun is player choice and the ability to change up that choice, from how you set up your class to complement your style of gameplay, to decisions that you make mid-game of should you move to one piece of cover or the other, should you stay put, should you push, or should you wait for your squad mates to spawn on you. Deducing maybe if the enemy is weak enough to charge down the middle, or should you engage in a carefully planned flanking maneuver and catch him in the rear. After doing multiple gun reviews for this game, I've realized that the meta is pretty well balanced, and instead of deciding which gun you're going to hail as quote-unquote best and just stick with it, the challenge and the nuance comes with picking the right weapon for the right circumstance and how to set that weapon up depending on what you encounter in the map, which can also be extremely varied. Each weapon has a strength and a specific way you need to play with it to be good. Some of these weapons respond well to microbursts, so maybe 2 or 3 bullets at one time. Some have a really high first shot recoil where that doesn't work, and a 4 to 5 round burst works better. Some of these guns utilize a bullpup design, like the MTAR, and those allow for a far less movement penalty to accuracy, and some guns are demons as long as you're just standing still. The player choice all feeds into this if you're going to be successful or not. And while most players are going to run the Ace-23 all the time, and arguably you can do well with that tactic, the player that really excels at this game is going to take the time to study the meta and gain that small edge. But see, that's the cool thing. It's a really good balance because it's accessible for anybody who just wants to run and gun with the same weapon and get used to that weapon and know that weapon inside and out. But there's also a very high skill ceiling that offers rewards for players who want to really master their craft and study the meta and figure out how to use each one of these guns for whatever scenario they encounter. The same kind of goes for vehicles as well, especially for helicopters in the air. I honestly never could keep one of these things up in the air, but those who took the time to figure it out were duly rewarded. And in those damn helicopters, maybe a little too well rewarded, maybe. But anyways, vehicles and the customization options of these vehicles are absolutely awesome. I love driving tanks and having the ability to outfit them to focus on infantry or focus on combat with other armor on the map, or even being able to absolutely wreck aircraft, especially when they don't expect a tank to have that capability.
Attack heli down.
I hit him a couple times.
I hit the attack heli. Yeah! Eat that, bitch! Eat it! You could outfit that tank to fit any one of those play styles depending on maybe what the enemy was doing. The play and the counterplay involved throughout the multiplayer is intoxicating. And the seasoning to all this was the plethora of gadgets as well. The gadgets in this game were so good. You'd play with a weapon you didn't like just to use the gadgets in that class. The SOFLAM, the med kits, the Jeep stuff, the Mavs. Most of these gadgets offered what could be game-changing tools if used correctly. You got aircraft just wrecking everything on the map? Well, get some recons, set up a few SOFLAMs, and team up with a squad of engineers. Got those UCAV dicks launching guided suicide rockets the whole match? Fly a Mav up there, destroy their ammo bags so they can't restock. You got tank sweats ruining your day? Well, grab you a Jeep, grab some good old Jeep stuff on the front of that sumbitch, and overnight a package of whoop ass to the enemy team. Bottom line, gameplay, gunplay, team play was awesome. You're highly rewarded for playing as a team and highly rewarded for honing your skills. I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. I love the multiplayer in Battlefield 4. Also, every game that comes out tries to have something new and innovative to offer, and hopefully not be too gimmicky. Battlefield 4 had something that was a little bit gimmicky, but at the same time it was pretty awesome. Let's go ahead and admit it, that Levolution was cool. We all know it, we've seen it, and this really was an awe-inspiring feature of epic scale on most of the maps. Along with this was something many people may have overlooked at the time, and that was networked water, which was a big deal, especially for the Naval Strike DLC maps. With this new innovation, every player saw the same wave at the same time. It wasn't done like in the past where each player had their own waves rendered for them on their PC or their gaming console. These waves were rendered by the servers, which This actually offered sensible, logical gameplay when when you were on the water and you didn't see people randomly diving under or above the waters on your screen. It was all a uniform experience, and at the time, that was a pretty big deal. Another win for Battlefield 4 was the operators. These operators all look badass, and of course, they had enough stuff around their face and on their face that it was plausible that each soldier was a different person. We didn't have to deal with anime characters running around everywhere and upsetting the aesthetic. We just got plenty of that in the emblem section after every single death, because for some reason, 90% of the Battlefield population are a bunch of weebs. But you know what? I can deal with that. That's okay. That's fine. The camos of the soldiers, the guns, the tanks, they were all badass, and they all fit the aesthetic of BF4 while allowing just enough creative design and free expression to make it our own. They didn't have crazy skins to sell. They had to sell good content to make money, which is a novel idea. That's a wonderful thing. Except for battle packs. Those kind of suck, but in the modern day, if you get this game today, it provides you with several dozen of them, so you're going to unlock everything that you would have unlocked back then anyways. They kind of take it out of the equation by doing that. But just take a break from this review. If you love the in-depth analysis of some of these older games, I highly recommend you check out my retro review playlist, where we go in depth and we kind of share stories about what we were doing while we were playing these games. I want you to leave some comments in the comments section, and I am going to leave a link to that in the description and at the end of this video if you want to go back and get some really nostalgic vibes from those. But anyways, back to the video. Just some simple trivia for you here. Did you know that this game had a novel to accompany it? Yep, Battlefield Countdown to War is set right before the campaign for this title, and it's still available on Amazon. How do I know you didn't know that? Because we're gamers, we don't read books. No, I'm just kidding. Read your book, kids. Read your books. Another interesting point is the fact that this game went live in China and it sold well, but when the DLC of China Rising came out, it was immediately banned by the government. The reasoning? There were depictions of Chinese lands and territories, and the military thought that it would risk national security, even though, some of these same things were displayed in campaign, and I'm not really sure how accurate it was to real China lands, but I don't know. So, if we ever do invade China, my battle plan is going to be holding all the points until their tickets run dry. But for the question you probably came to for this video, is it still alive in 2023? And if so, is it still worth buying? Well, there's no doubt there's decidedly less players today than in previous years. However, on a Friday night on PC, I really don't have any problems at all finding a server. Now, at the beginning of the year, we might see some depression in player counts as some new titles come out and there's a few distractions there, but there's still a very dedicated player base that continues to show up to this title year after year after year. That's the good thing about Battlefield 4. It aged very well, and so it still has a pretty decent player base considering it's a decade old. And one thing that is kind of neat that I don't experience with other games, that if you hop on fairly often, that you'll see the same players on and you'll strike up a conversation or maybe just joke with them every now and then. But it's kind of neat to hop in a server with familiar names in a smaller community. So right now, you can get this game for $4.99 a month just with EA Play. That's all it is. Minimal risk to fire this thing up. Be aware though, while installing this on my girlfriend's PC, I did have to download a plugin that had to do with C++ script, but it wasn't complicated at all. I just downloaded that one thing, clicked the shortcut, and boom, you're in. But yeah, on the weekends, you can see peaks up to 2,500, sometimes 3,000 people playing from Steam, and that's only counting Steam, not Origin. So there's more people than that. That's not PlayStation 3 or 4, Xbox, etc. So it's gonna vary. But my point is, this 10-year-old game ain't dead yet. If you live in India, though, you might just have to enjoy the campaign. Well, play the campaign. But in most places, this game is astonishingly still alive. Now, be warned, you're going to have to do some trial and error to find truly populated servers, so don't get fed up with it after you click on 2 or 3 and some of them are spoofing player counts and you're loading into empty servers. Keep going at it. You'll find servers that are populated. I know personally that right now TCB gaming servers are usually populated. Bandzone, I think that's what it's called. Those are usually populated, and they're always pretty fun. I don't run into an abundant amount of hackers, but just like anything else, you do see a few from time to time, just as much as any modern game, to be honest. And unfortunately, that's just a sign of the times now. There are hackers. If you want to own this game outright, it's $40 on Steam, but if you play it on EA for Carry the 1. 8 months, you're going to end up breaking even on this if you just play Battlefield 4 though. So yeah, screw that. Just get EA Play and run with that. Point is, this is an awesome game. Now, just like every retro video game review I do want to share my story with you, and I want to hear your story as well. I want to know what you were doing 10 years ago. Who did you play with? Was this your first epic gaming experience, or what led you to this game? Did it make a good time even better, or maybe a really crappy time more bearable? As for me, I wish I'd been more involved in the community when this game came out, but sadly, I didn't really start playing this until about 2015 when I moved out of my parents' house, and I just took so much pride in sitting there on my PlayStation, on my TV, in my house, my living room, munching on my junk food, sometimes sitting with my friends and enjoying independence for the first time. It was so much fun to just invite some of my friends over to an evening of controller swapping and talking and laughing and thinking up skits we wanted to create and laughing at each other's bad gameplay. And even when they weren't there, it was pretty cool to enjoy the peace and quiet of my own place where I could just sit and play till the wee hours of the morning if I wanted to, and I didn't have to worry about what anybody thought. And two, I'll admit this, during that time, I was pretty lonely. But instead of sitting around and sulking about it, Battlefield 4 let me just solely focus on something else, even if it was for a few hours, just for a little while. I was still pretty involved in politics in this time, and for a 20-year-old, worrying about the fate of my beloved country and doing everything he could about it, this was an epic way to relieve some of that stress as I spent the rest of my free time reading history books, keeping close watch on the news and local elections, participating in the process in my local tea party. But this right here, the hours that I got to sit down and play this game, those were the hours that I got to be a little bit of a kid again. Just totally immersing myself into something that didn't matter for a change. So, I strongly encourage you to hop on and revisit this gem. You know, these older games are aging, and nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, is going to stop that. There's going to be a day when Battlefield 4 is just a distant memory. There will be a day when you fire up the game and it's empty servers. The only nostalgia that we're going to get is playing the campaign and watching old montages of epic kill counts, Battlefield friends, and insane stunts by Ponyline, perhaps explaining to our kids what real gaming was like back in the day and why it was just so epic for him to take out a jet with a tank after having blown it into the sky with C4. That's why we need to help keep these games alive, help keep the communities going. And that goes for every game that you might have enjoyed in the past, not just, you know, Battlefield 4, but while you're playing the next Call of Duty title, take a break. Go back to the simpler times. Enjoy the greatness of some of the older platforms, because they're not going to be around forever. And it truly is worth it, especially with this game. And I hope you join me in that venture, because it's our responsibility to play them, enjoy them, keep talking about them, and never forget just how rewarding it was to sit down 10 years ago with a Mountain Dew, your favorite snack, possibly your best friends that may not have been online for the past decade. Memories that you'll probably forget about and never relive unless you take the time to intentionally do so. So, share this video with a friend you used to play with, and let me know in the comments below what you were doing a decade ago when you were discovering this game, what I consider to be the greatest Battlefield of all time. And if you like this video, check out my Battlefield 1 video in the closing card in just a few seconds. But other than that, happy gaming, God bless, Hitchagood out.